What's up, everybody? Happy Friday evening. This is an exciting day for the YouTube channel because I got this thing started over the off season, and now I get to do my first game preview with you guys. So this is how it's going to work. I'm going to go through 49ers and Lions, and I'm going to open it up to questions. I want to make these as interactive as possible. I know sometimes I go on a monologue, sometimes it's pure Q&A, sometimes it's just one of these 5-minute videos where it's nice and quick and I attack a certain subject like the Josh Norman signing for the 49ers last Sunday. This one's going to be a grab bag, a mix of both. So we're going to preview 49ers Lions season opener. Everybody's excited about this 2021 season, and we'll do it in some semi-rehearsed format, and then we're going to take some questions. So this is going to be up for everybody to look at throughout Saturday and then Sunday morning if they're up early and antsy for game time. Anyway, Friday night, I think this is the first time I've ever done one of these on a Friday night. I'm actually going to be doing a 10-mile swim tomorrow morning up here at Shaver Lake. So figured it'd be a good time to do this. My girlfriend's actually on a plane right now flying to Greece with her best friend. So I'm here ready to talk some 49ers on a Friday night. So everybody grab your beer. Why don't we have some fun with this? It was a good week of practice for the 49ers. Jimmy Garoppolo was out there. Of course, he's going to be your starting quarterback on Sunday against the Detroit Lions for week 1. And the good news for the 49ers is that Trey Lance is healthy enough to play as well. Now, that's the first big topic here. Will Trey Lance play, even though he's healthy enough to play? He practiced all 3 days of Lions week, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday in limited capacity. I didn't get to see team drills, but I saw Trey Lance throwing the football, and it looked fine coming out of his hand. Remember, he chipped that finger, right index finger, less than 2 weeks ago. That was against the Raiders on Sunday of the dress rehearsal. Kyle Shanahan has been mum about how much he plans to play Trey Lance. John Lynch seemed to be a little bit more bubbly about the prospect of Trey playing. And then the question is, do the 49ers even want to expose him against the Detroit Lions? Because we do know that they're going to be running a 2-quarterback setup this year. That doesn't mean that it's going to be a 50-50 split between Garoppolo and Trey Lance, but it does mean that Trey is going to get situational play in this season. And if Kyle Shanahan is going to mix and match this depending on defensive front, personnel packages, location of the field that the 49ers are on, like if you're going field position, it's going to be red zone, plus 50, that kind of stuff. If Shanahan's going to work Trey Lance in that way, he might want to hold some of the Trey Lance stuff in his back pocket for an opponent that the 49ers may have a little bit more of a challenge beating, because they are heavy favorites entering this Lions game. And I'll go through all the betting numbers in a little bit for those of you who want to win some money on this game. But the 49ers opened up as touchdown favorites. I think they're 7.5-point favorites right now. That's a big spread for the season opener on the road against a team with a new coaching staff, because typically teams with new coaching staffs do get a little bit of a boost in that first game because there's going to be some energy there for the Detroit Lions they might not have had down the stretch under Matt Patricia's staff. And obviously he got fired along with the GM Bob Quinn after last season. They went 5-11. But if you just look at roster against roster, the 49ers have a massive advantage in this game, which makes me wonder just how much they will expose Trey Lance, given the fact that he is coming off a minor fracture, but a fracture on one of the fingers of his throwing hand. He was fine throwing the football at practice. I do think that Trey Lance looks close to 100%. I mean, Kyle Shanahan wasn't lying when he said that this is only going to take about a week to get back. But, even if Trey Lance were fully healthy, I wonder how much the 49ers would, show in this game and how much they would want to hold back till later. I think the big balancing act with Trey is that the 49ers really, really want him to play for reasons outside of winning and losing football games. They also want to get Trey out there because they got to knock out these cobwebs. This guy played a full season in 2019, and he only played one game in 2020 for North Dakota State because of the COVID pushback to spring for the FCS season. So because of that, the 49ers have invested so much in Trey Lance. They need to, knock off the dust, knock off the rust, and get him working. It doesn't matter how you get him out there. You have to get him out there somehow, some way. And I think that's why there's also an antsiness to get Trey Lance to play, even though he did have that minor injury less than 2 weeks ago. Now, the 49ers are trying to have their cake and eat it too. They're trying to, run a tightrope balancing act here. They are all in for 2021 trying to win a Super Bowl. And generally the way to win a Super Bowl is not by playing a rookie who has only 300 career college throws under his belt, who hasn't played in 2 seasons. But Kyle Shanahan believes that he can squeeze the positives out of Trey Lance and make sure that the action that he does give Trey during these games that enables Trey Lance to get his feet wet and to make sure he's not just sitting on the shelf after sitting on the shelf for almost all of 2020. Kyle Shanahan believes that he could somehow take that experience-making game action and allow it to benefit the 49ers as well. That's what the Trey Lance package is all about. You try to capture the pluses and eliminate the minuses. And that's why you leverage Trey Lance. That's why you use him against certain personnel packages, on certain downs and distances, on certain portions of the field. And that's why field position is going to be so important for the 49ers. Kyle really believes that he can have his cake and eat it too. So with that being said, perhaps a matchup against Detroit, a team that was the very worst defense in the league last season, number 32 in DVOA, maybe that's going to be what Kyle Shanahan needs to, set up the right downs and distances to get Trey Lance ready to play in the right spot, ease him in, ramp him up, make sure that he uses this 2021 productively, because the 49ers have to play both the short term and the long term at the same time. In fact, Trey Lance was the ultimate short term, long term draft pick, right? You pick him using so much capital that you need some return on your investment in the short term, but you also, looking at his resume, looking at the fact that he has the highest ceiling, I think, out of all these quarterback prospects in 2021, and looking at the fact that he is the rawest of all those prospects, you also have to look at it in terms of the long term. And Jimmy Garoppolo allows you to look at this in terms of the long term. He gives you at least 1 year, right, of runway time, and contractually Jimmy Garoppolo gives you 2 years of runway time. But the 49ers aren't looking at it like that. They're looking at this on a week-by-week basis. They want option power. They want fluidity. And it all starts against Detroit here in week 1. So what is the matchup going to be like? Well, this is what we know about the Detroit Lions. Last season, this was the worst defense in all football. It was particularly bad in the secondary. They were the worst ranked team in the NFL as far as pass defense DVOA went. They were like number 27 in run defense DVOA, which does match up with the talent level on this defense. The defensive line for the Lions is a little bit better than the secondary, which was just brutal. It was rough last year. They haven't gotten what they've wanted out of Jeff Okudah, the cornerback out of Ohio State they drafted so high not too long ago. It was a mess on the back end last season for the Lions. So that has to get better. And that's why they brought in Aaron Glenn to be their defensive coordinator. He's the former DB coach of the Saints. And remember, the Saints have always played well in the secondary. I think they've been well coached on the back end. So Aaron Glenn is a guy with a secondary background, the DB background that the Lions have brought in to coach that back end of their defense. Will they be better? I don't know. There's a lot of young guys. They actually used the pick ahead of the 49ers pick for Ambry Thomas on the 3rd round on Ifeadi Melifonwu, who is Obi Melifonwu's younger brother. A lot of people wanted the 49ers to select Melifonwu, but they had their eyes on Ambry Thomas. Detroit kid, by the way, is going to be making a homecoming. And I don't think Ambry Thomas is going to get significant run in this game because he took all 2020 off due to the COVID opt-out at Michigan. So you're more likely to see Diamador Lenore in this game. But anyway, Melifonwu was one of the young guys that the Lions have in that secondary. And you look up and down the Detroit depth chart, and it's going to have to be a lot of young guys proving themselves immediately for them to have a chance against the 49ers, especially because 3 of their defensive linemen are questionable for this game. So pass rush that already wasn't great for Detroit is already compromised by injury here in week 1. And the secondary, it's looking rough. So if Trey Lance is is in this for the running packages, just as a decoy, just to get his feet wet, get used to NFL speed, get used to NFL game environment on the road. That could be valuable too. This seems to me like it could be a good landing spot for Trey Lance to really start getting involved in things. Again, it's going to depend on how healthy the 49ers think he is. But if you listen to John Lynch talk on the radio on Friday, he said that the only thing that would really cause Trey Lance to go backwards right now is smashing his finger on a helmet again. And he could do that at any point of his career. He could do that in week 9 when he's definitely 100% healthy. He can do that in 2022 or 2023. I mean, that's part of the risk of the job, right, of being an NFL quarterback. You can always smash your finger on a helmet and break it. So based on the way that John Lynch was talking, Trey Lance is 100% and he should be ready to go. And you look at how bad this Detroit defense was last year. Yeah, they're going to have probably a little bit more pep in their step under the new staff. Yeah, Aaron Glenn is probably going to make that secondary a little bit better. But this is a run-first 49ers football team. And the facet of the game that the 49ers brought Trey Lance in to perform and to help them in immediately is the running game. I'm not saying that he won't throw. He's still going to throw. He has great arm talent. That's going to be the thing that separates Trey Lance from a Taysom Hill package, for example. He's going to be able to throw, but you have to understand the way that Kyle Shanahan operates. We just saw last night in Thursday Night Football, we saw the Cowboys and the Buccaneers combined for 108 passes. I mean, it was basketball on grass in Tampa. The 49ers don't play that way. In fact, the 49ers and Anthony Lynn's Chargers last year, and Anthony Lynn is the offensive coordinator now of Detroit. They were two of the only teams in the NFL, the Ravens being another team, that ran more than they passed. If you want to see teams that have run more than they've passed over the past few years, it's a very short list. It's only the 49ers and it's only Baltimore. Last season with Justin Herbert, rookie quarterback for the Chargers, Anthony Lynn as the offensive coordinator there, made sure to establish the run game. And that's something that he's going to do with Detroit as well. I'm going to get into that in a little bit because he's got Jared Goff now as his quarterback. But we're going to talk about the other side of the ball first. And when we're talking about Jimmy Garoppolo and Trey Lance against this Detroit defense, the 49ers are going to play their style, and their style is not throwing 50-plus times a game. Both QBs in that Thursday night game, Tom Brady and Dak Prescott, threw at least 50 times a game. I think it was 50 for Brady and 58 for Prescott. The 49ers would love to run that many times per game if they can. And, hey, they're healthy in the backfield. Raheem Mostert is bulked up. He's feeling good. He's explosive. They're better along the offensive line. And most importantly, they have this weapon. It's a rookie. You might have heard of him. His name is Trey Lance. And Trey makes the defense play 11 on 11 football. It's not 11 on 10 anymore. When Trey comes into the game in his packages, the defense must account for him. And Detroit's been spending a lot of practice time this week trying to account for Trey Lance. So I think that fundamentally changes how the 49ers run game can operate, because when you're trying to put a hat on a hat from a defensive perspective, there's going to be one more guy, and he's a fast guy. I mean, we've seen the athleticism already from Trey Lance. He's going to be a guy that can create headaches. If Shanahan deploys him correctly and strategically, as I think we can expect Shanahan to do, given his creativity, I think the 49ers can have even more rushing success than they did during their peaks in 2019. Now, will they be a well-oiled machine yet? Maybe not. Maybe this is going to take a few games for the 49ers to break in. But again, they're playing a Detroit defense that is compromised by injuries along the line, that wasn't good in 2020, and that's still going to be working into a new set of plays, a new staff. I mean, you name it. I think that Detroit might have energy in this game, but I'm not really sure that they're ready for all of the personnel advantages that the 49ers will bring. So look for Trey Lance in the run game if he does indeed play. Look for the 49ers to run a lot. Look for them to control the tempo of this game by keeping it on the ground. The problem with Buccaneers, Cowboys, is that neither of those teams really controlled the tempo, which is why that game was such a total shit show the other night on Thursday. I mean, it was back and forth, and whoever had the ball last was going to win, and that was Tampa Bay with Tom Brady marching down the field. Shanahan, I don't think he's going to face a situation like that against Detroit unless this is some kind of big upset bid. But he, in general, throughout this entire 2021 season, is going to want to avoid Big 12 style football. He's going to want to play NFL style football, and that means controlling the clock, controlling the flow, and guess who that benefits the most? The 49ers defense. And that's why I want to flip this around, the 49ers defense against that Lions offense. If you play complementary football the way Kyle Shanahan wants to play it, the 49ers defense, and that's Nick Bosa and D Ford, Sansom Ebicom is part of that. That monstrous defensive line is part of that. Those guys are going to be able to come in fresh. And if those guys come in fresh, you already know what's going to happen. That was the story of 2019. Now, the Detroit Lions are compromised up front. Their left tackle, Taylor Decker, is not going to play because of a hand injury. We're not sure what the Lions are going to do, but at practice on Friday, it seemed that they were thinking about moving their rookie right tackle, Penei Sewell, out of Oregon to left tackle. Now, Sewell, remember, there was a lot of talk about him in the draft, top 10 pick, all this, all that, being a ready-made NFL tackle. It hasn't been quite that clear cut during the preseason. Sewell struggled in pass protection at right tackle. His position at Oregon was left tackle. So there's a chance that the Lions feel good about moving Sewell to left tackle for his NFL debut, because during actual game action in college, that's where he's been comfortable. However, the 49ers have guys named Bosa. They have a guy named Ford, and they have a guy named Ebicom, and they're even deeper than that. They have a guy named Armstead. They have a guy named Arden Key. Chris Kacerek, who's the 49ers defensive line coach, can mix and match his defensive ends however he wants. I don't think it matters where Penei Sewell plays. If it's left tackle, right tackle, if the 49ers see a matchup disadvantage, then, if they see a matchup advantage, let's put it this way, a disadvantage for Sewell, they can move their defensive end to that side. So I don't think that Detroit, can run from, they can run, but they can't hide from the sheer talent advantage the 49ers defensive line will have over their offensive line, especially since one of Detroit's two starting tackles and Taylor Decker is going to be out in this game. So Matthew Stafford's gone. He's with the Rams. Obviously, Jared Goff is the quarterback now for the Lions. Goff is a play-action quarterback who needs that run game really to be clicking. And hell, even Matthew Stafford needed a run game to be clicking. There's a reason he has a losing record in his career, and that's because Detroit was never able to supplement Matthew Stafford with a legitimate run game. That was the Achilles heel of the Lions. I think it's tremendously ironic because for all the years that Barry Sanders, one of the greatest running backs of all time, was playing in Detroit, they couldn't supplement him with a pass game or with a defense. So Barry Sanders is super frustrated. He retires at like age 30. And then Matthew Stafford comes along a few years later, and they can't give this guy a run game. Just imagine if you had been able to pair Stafford with Barry Sanders. It would have been, a much happier situation in Detroit. But it's one of those cursed franchises where they can never get the stars to align. Anyway, Jared Goff, though, he absolutely needs a run game. Matthew Stafford occasionally made it work, in here and there without a run game. But I think Jared Goff without a run game, without able to set up the play action, I think that would get ugly because the defense would just be able to pin its ears back, get after him. And we know that Jared Goff is particularly bad under pressure. So Anthony Lynn, new Chargers offensive coordinator, I promised I'd bring it back to this. He ran more than he passed with San Diego or the Chargers last year. He's going to try to establish the run this year. And that's the only thing that I think can really trip up the 49ers defense in this game. Because mano a mano, if the 49ers are just getting after Jared Goff on standard passing downs, this offensive line, especially with the injury to Taylor Decker, is not going to be good enough to block Bosa for, you name it, maybe not even Arden Key. But if somehow the Lions are able to control some tempo, take a page out of the 49ers book with their ground game on the offensive line, that is where the 49ers can have some steam taken out of that pass rush. Javon Kinlaw is doubtful. He's probably not going to play. I get it. The 49ers have a lot of interior depth. Kevin Givens is questionable, but you do have Zach Kerr. You have bodies that can get the job done on the inside, right? If you're the 49ers. So That is going to be key because I think Detroit is going to try to run it up the gut against the 49ers wide nine, while the D'Amico Ryan's defense tries to spread it out, pin its ears back, get after the passer. The Lions are going to try to stop them from ever setting up in that alignment. And it's going to be up to the 49ers, interior defensive line. And if you don't have Javon Kinlaw playing, then it's going to be up to your Armsteads. It's going to be up to your Zach Kerrs. It's going to be up to your Kevin Givens types to get off blocks and get it done on the inside. And of course, it's going to be up to the 49ers linebackers because when you align wide up front, you need fast linebackers. And that's why the 49ers have a bunch of strong safeties playing linebacker. With Fred Warner in there, Azeez Al-Shaair can move. We know that Dre Greenlaw can move. Those linebackers are going to have to patrol. They're going to have to fly. They're going to have to fill their gaps. Because if the 49ers slow that Detroit run game that we know that Anthony Lynn is going to try to establish, the 49ers play this game on their terms. And that's going to mean Bosa, Ford, Ebukam coming off the edges. And if that happens, I don't care who the second cornerback is, right? If the 49ers get after the passer the way that they did in 2019, they can get away with anybody back there. They can get away with an out-of-shape Josh Norman, and I don't think he's in the best shape yet based on what he said today, but I think he's working toward it. They can get away with Deommodore Lenoir and a rookie debut. They can get away with Dante Johnson back there. And it doesn't look like Emmanuel Mosley is going to play. So the pass rush is the great mitigator for the 49ers. And for the pass rush to operate, they have to stop the run. And that's the one weakness I see with the 49ers in this game is that run defense potentially with, Kinlaw out, with Maurice Hurst out, and potentially with somebody like Kevin Givens out. Maybe the 49ers are a little vulnerable on the inside, but God, I'm really stretching to find a potential weakness. I mean, when you're comparing the 49ers to the 49ers are like the Death Star, and the Lions are like the Rebels. Now, I know that analogy probably doesn't go well because the Rebels were able to blow up the Death Star. But the reason I'm using the analogy is that it is possible for the 49ers to get blown up in this game if they get overconfident. They can't act like there are no holes in the battle station. There is a hole in the battle station, and it might be right on the inside, or it might be right with that interior defensive line because of the injuries. So that's what the 49ers have to watch out for. They have to get a big game from the linebackers. They have to get a big game from Zach Kerr and company. If that happens, you set the table for Nick Bosa and Dee Ford to eat a nice breakfast. I guess it will be Pacific time for them, right? Yeah. Lunch, Eastern time, breakfast, West Coast time, that works. Those of you headed out to Detroit, you got to try a Coney Island dog, a Coney dog at one of the two places downtown. That's like Detroit's fast food contribution to the food world. Really good, and then you can get the square slice Detroit style pizza. But late night food in Detroit are those Coney dogs. There are two places that compete. There's a great history. They've both been open for like 80 years, and they're right next to each other downtown. And you could get, there's just a loaded hot dog is what it is. You can get one from one of the places and one from the place next door, and they're like rivals. So check that out if you're going to Detroit. They serve it in the airport too. They have a location in the airport, one of the two. I'm not sure which rival has it. I think it was some kind of family feud that split them apart. But you got to check out the Coney dog in Detroit, and they probably have one at Ford Field. Little Caesars is a Detroit company, right? Yeah, Little Caesars Arena. So that makes sense. Detroit style pizza turned into Little Caesars as a chain, kind of like the San Francisco burrito became Chipotle. Chipotle, the mission style burrito, it's kind of based on that. I'm going to try to talk about food before every one of these road trips. Anyway, I got on the food thought because Dee Ford, Nick Bosa, Sansom Ebukam, if the 49ers do their job on the rest of the defense, those guys will eat. And they'll have their choice of what they want to eat in Detroit. Okay, I'm going to get to the gambling preview in a little bit. It's time for questions now. I've been talking for 24 minutes about this matchup. This is funny. I find your lack of faith disturbing. Or as Tarkin said, evacuate in our moment of triumph. And then the Death Star blew up like 5 minutes later. So the 49ers, they can't turn into Tarkin here. They need to stay on top of things. I think John Lynch had a good point on KMBR Friday morning. He said, you never know what kind of energy a team is going to bring with a new staff and a new regime. The 49ers need to be mindful of that. Because if you look at the Detroit roster, and I have their depth chart right here, so why don't we pop it open? Just really quickly, why don't we go through that Detroit depth chart to see what they have. I mean, obviously you have Goff. DeAndre Swift is going to be their top running back. But, it's brutal at the wideout room. They lost Kenny Golladay to the Giants, Marvin Jones to the Jaguars. So you have Terrell Williams, who's like a wide receiver 3 at best in my book. Amon-Ra St. Brown, rookie out of USC. Khalif Raymond. I mean, that's a rough receiver room. The top target's going to be T.J. Hawkinson for the Lions, who was actually George Kittle's teammate at Iowa. And T.J. Hawkinson was picked 8th overall in 2019. He's a good tight end. He's the leading returning receiver for the Lions. And trust me, the 49ers are not worried about their ability to cover tight ends, especially if that's the only guy they have to focus on. Jason Kambida, the fullback, I believe he was the Raiders at the time. Taylor Decker is not going to play against the 49ers. So here's your line. You probably have Sewell move over to the left tackle. If not, you might have Vaitai play left tackle. Matt Nelson is your backup swing tackle, so maybe he'll do it. But based on what they were doing in practice, it looks like Sewell will be on left tackle and Matt Nelson will go on right tackle. Either way you mix it, it just seems to me like the Lions will be rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic. I don't see how this group of talent right here can, A, block the 49ers defensive line, right, with the edge rushers the 49ers have in pass rushing situations, and B, if it is a passing situation, I don't see how this group of receivers would be able to beat even a 49ers secondary that has to start an out-of-shape Josh Norman or Dante Johnson, right? I think the Detroit game plan is going to have to be to run. And that's the only way that these guys will be able to maybe exploit one of those weaknesses for the 49ers up front. It just looks like a terrible matchup for Detroit. It's a really good roster for the 49ers against the really sketchy one for the Lions that's missing key guys. That's the way it goes. On defense, let's see what they have. Michael Brockers is questionable. So is Nick Williams. So you have a 3-4 where your two, big defensive ends are both questionable. We don't know if they're going to play. And then Onwuzurike right here is also questionable. So, I mean, you're very, very thin. Like Deshaun Hand, Cornell, Heath, all these guys are going to be unavailable. So the Lions are just beaten up front. I know they run a 3-4, so Trey Flowers is more your edge rusher. He's going to play. He's somebody you have to account for. And then you have your secondary. Here's Melifonwu, who they picked in the 3rd round, right ahead of Ambry Thomas. But God, I mean, just look up and down this roster. Is there anybody that stands out to you? I'm just, keeping it real here. And then you look at what the Lions did last season. This is the preview, by the way, that Matt Barrows and I wrote in The Athletic. And I'm sharing the link right now. Go ahead and check it out. And, this is another good point right here. Yeah, Trey Flowers hasn't been good since he was with the Patriots. He got big money from the Lions, and he's been a disappointment ever since then. So looking up and down that Lions roster, I am just not – if I'm the 49ers, I'm not scared, right? Then you look at the Lions' performance last year. I should probably take off this Trey Flowers comment so you could see this. This is the DVOA ranks in 2020. 27th overall. This is relative to the rest of the league. Red is bad. Blue is good. Offense was 16th. So offense was middle of the pack, was very average. Pass offense was a little bit better than average. Remember, this was Stafford. Run offense was worse than average. Defense was the worst in the league. Pass defense was the worst in the league. Run defense was almost the worst in the league. Special teams was just a little bit above average. So what's changed since last year? We have no Stafford. I think we all agree that Stafford is better than Goff. The line is more injured than it was last year. So I think the offense is not the number 16 offense anymore. The run game might be better because Anthony Lynn might be trying to establish the run game. But again, it's going to take a while for this new coaching staff to get what it wants in there. Remember the 49ers in their first game under Shanahan, that was ugly. They lost 23-3 to Carolina in 2017. They weren't ready to implement what was there yet. I feel the same vibes coming out of Detroit. No matter how many kneecaps Their new coach wants to bite off. He's not, the teeth aren't sharp enough to bite the kneecap. I mean, especially defense. God, they were so bad last year. You can't just expect a 1-year turnaround from number 32 to something above average. So that doesn't look good for the Lions. And I think that's why I see the 49ers just overwhelming them. Anyway, let's go. Questions. 300 yards rushing for the 49ers, great wide receiver blocking. It's possible. A lot has to go right for a team to rush for 300 yards. A lot has to go wrong on the defensive end. I don't know what kind of energy the Lions are going to come out with. That's the one thing. If there's one thing that could be kind of an equalizer in this game, it's the Detroit Lions getting that first game boost from a new coaching staff. You guys remember, I forgot what years it was, like 2005, 2004, whenever the hell Dennis Erickson was the 49ers coach. I mean, that was a really, really dark times. But remember Dennis Erickson's first game as coach, the 49ers were playing a much better Rams team, and they just blew them out of the water at home. And everybody thought, oh, my God, Dennis Erickson's going to turn this franchise around. And the 49ers probably went, 4-12? They didn't go any better than that. I don't remember, to be honest. I was much younger. I wasn't covering the team then. But anyway, that first game is not often indicative of how the rest of the season is going to go, which is why I keep on warning you, okay, maybe the Lions might be able to use some of that energy to negate some of the talent differential. But if they don't do that, yeah, the 49ers can just run it down their throats, and we'll see creative running. We'll see Trey Lance running. We'll see Deebo Samuel running. We'll see Brandon Ayuk running, and it will go crazy. On paper, that's what the 49ers should do to this Detroit team, because the Lions are just so decimated up front. You don't see teams this injured in week one. But again, the game is not played on paper. And if there is ever an intangible boost in football early in the season, it's when a new coaching staff takes over. And you've seen Dan Campbell, and you've heard him talk, and you've heard about the biting of the kneecaps and punching people and playing tough. I think that shtick gets old quick, but I do think that it has a little bit in its shelf life to get people fired up. I don't expect to see Dan Campbell and Kyle Shanahan have a Harbaugh, Jim Schwartz handshake gate after the game. But I do think that Campbell might get a little bit of effort out of his team, which might make this game a little bit more interesting than it is on paper. 10 a.m. start. Have the 49ers practices been early the last week or two? No, 49ers practicing at the same time. They did, and that's around noon. They do, however, wake up early. I mean, it's not like the 49ers are waking up at noon and going straight out to practice. These guys are in the facility at 6 or 7 a.m. They're going through meetings. They're doing weightlifting. They're doing whatever throughout the whole morning. Practice is just kind of the last part of the day. So it's not like their body clocks are that far off. The main thing to me is getting out there on Friday, right? And that's what the 49ers did. They flew to Detroit today. This game might have a bit of a slower start because of this 10 a.m. issue. But another big thing for the 49ers is the fact that they are staying over the whole week on the East Coast ahead of the Philadelphia game. So you might be able to call this one an early body clock start. And I guess you can, right? Like, let's call it for what it is. But you won't be able to call Philadelphia an early body clock start because the 49ers will already have been out there all week. I mean, this is what we call a week one overreaction. You've seen one game. You have no idea how bad the Cowboys defense might be this year. And guess what? They were historically terrible last season. So something tells me they didn't get much better this year. And you're already telling me that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are a well-oiled machine. There was no pressure at all on Tom Brady yesterday. Zero. The guy's going to be 44 years old. So why don't we wait to see a defense get pressure on him to see how this season's going to go? I mean, give Tampa Bay all the credit in the world. They've done a great job building an offensive line. I love Ryan Jensen. You have to love the Tristan Wirfs draft pick. He had a great rookie season. And that's the line is one of the main reasons they won that Super Bowl last year. They protected Tom Brady the way that a 42-year-old needed to be protected. But if Tampa Bay is going to run it back, they're going to have to go through some really good pass rushes that they didn't have to go through last year, the 49ers being one of them. I don't think that, lightning's going to strike twice. I don't think you're going to have everybody up front for the 49ers get hurt again. So show me that Tampa Bay offensive line, against Nick Bosa, D Ford, all those guys. Not the Cowboys. Like, what the hell are you talking about? It's a weak Cowboys defense. And making a proclamation off of the season opener on Thursday night, when these teams play so little in the preseason, is just crazy. I mean, I'm sorry. Way, way too early. We don't know if Tampa Bay should have destroyed Dallas last night, as far as I'm concerned. Everybody going into that game was saying, oh, well, Dak Prescott's coming off of a severe leg fracture. The Cowboys don't have a defense. The Bucs are at home. They've returned all 22 of their starters. Why did it take Tampa Bay until 2 seconds remained to kick a field goal to win that game at home? That doesn't sound like a well-oiled machine to me. It sounds like a team squeaking by in a game played with no defense. So I wouldn't read that one way or the other. I'm just playing devil's advocate to your point. There are reasons to be concerned if you're Tampa Bay coming out of yesterday's game. And there are also reasons, if you're viewing it in a vacuum, and there are also reasons to be optimistic. I don't think either is correct. I think that's week one, and we move on to week two. Now, I'm not going to read too far into the 49ers game either, as we shouldn't, because the Lions don't look very talented. Is DeMeco Ryans ready for his first game? We'll see if he's ready for his first game. He's polished up on that podium. 49ers have been getting and preparing and grooming DeMeco Ryans for this moment. I mean, he's been in an apprenticeship under Robert Saleh. DeMeco Ryans had the radio in his helmet back when he was middle linebacker for the Houston Texans and the Philadelphia Eagles. This guy already knows the mechanics, how to call plays. I think he's ready. I think he'll be fine. I think he's going to be aggressive. He is going to be aggressive. We'll see the 49ers blitz rate stay high. Maybe not as high as last year's, but higher than 2019's. I think Fred Warner is going to notch some sacks for the 49ers this year. And maybe not, against the Lions if they run all the time. But in games where the 49ers see a few more passes from the opposition, I think you're going to see those linebackers blitz more because DeMeco Ryans, a coach always kind of plays vicariously through his position, right? I thought Jim Harbaugh coached vicariously through the QB. It might have cost the 49ers at the end of the Super Bowl against the Ravens when he threw all those times instead of handing off to Gore. Well, DeMeco Ryans might kind of play vicariously through the linebackers. You might see Fred Warner, Mike linebacker. DeMeco might see some of his old playing self out there and be like, I want to blitz. So he's going to send Warner on a few more blitzes. Do you think there's a chance that Deommodore Lenoir will get some play on Sunday? Absolutely. I think the 49ers wanted to play. He's leapfrogged Ambry Thomas on the depth chart. He's like the backup nickel right now, it seems, according to how the 49ers are lining up in practice behind K'Wan Williams. And I think that the 49ers might even run a cornerback rotation opposite Jason Verrett on Sunday. Because I don't know if Josh Norman is healthy enough to play 50 to 60 snaps. Not healthy. I don't know if he's in shape enough to do that. The guy's going to be 34 years old this season. Didn't have a training camp. So you might want to preserve Josh Norman. But you want to get his feet wet as well in the system because you do trust a veteran more in that system. And then you want to put Deommodore Lenoir in. He's obviously in good enough shape. He did some good things in camp. He had some rookie mistakes in camp and in preseason. But the only way to really get rid of the rookie mistakes fully is to give him time to play. So it's a great opportunity to play against a really weak wide receiving core, against what I think isn't a great quarterback in Jared Goff, and behind a great pass rush. So why not mix and match Lenoir and Josh Norman and keep Dante Johnson as your higher floor guy? Because as much as people hate on Dante Johnson, they hate on him because the ceiling isn't very high, but the floor is much higher than it was in his early Trent Baalke years with the 49ers. Like Dante Johnson, drafted by Baalke in 2016, he's a guy that you can rely on to just not completely screw things up anymore. I know it's funny to say that about Dante Johnson, but the 49ers view him that way. And it's one of those three guys is going to get most of the time, but I do think that we might see a little bit of a timeshare for the defense, and that means that Deommodore Lenoir might have a chance to play. Yeah, I don't know how people said that Tampa Bay looked like a well-oiled machine when they squeaked by a team that they were favored to beat by, 10 points? Doesn't make any sense to me. People are so ready to make proclamations and coronate people, especially Brady after week one. Little do they, remember that Dallas was just a horrific defense last year. So I would hope that Tampa scores 30. I would hope the 49ers score 30 in this game against the horrific Detroit defense. But it's week one. No matter what happens, it's week one. And weird stuff tends to happen earlier in the season because you don't know who's going to come out, firing and who's going to come out sluggish. You don't really know until the regular season begins. Do you see Trey Sermon leading the backfield in touches at some point this season? It depends on the game, depends on the injury situation, depends on a lot of things. It's just tough because this is just never a fair question with the 49ers. They don't run this like other backfields. It's so by committee with the 49ers that, yeah, sometimes there's going to be a hot hand thing. Sometimes there's going to be a matchup thing. I mean, Shanahan's going to rotate his quarterbacks this year. He's going to obviously rotates through receivers and tight ends based on personnel packages. We know in the running back room he has a softener. It was Tevin Coleman before. It's going to be Trey Sermon this year. And then he has the fastest player in the NFL in Raheem Mostert. If it's a game where the 49ers are stretching, and if they've gotten that defense and they've gotten those, running lanes wide open, then they want Mostert leading the team in carries there. But sometimes Mostert runs for too many 80-yard gains. Sometimes Mostert rips off so many 40-yard gashes that he doesn't get as many carries because the team scores in 3 plays, and that's a great problem to have too. So it's hard to say who's going to get the most touches, if it's Sermon, if it's Mostert, because so much of it is dependent on stuff that really doesn't pertain to the game plan, right? Too many big gains mean fewer touches, and you're happy to accept that trade-off if you're the 49ers. So the way I look at it is that it's a by-committee backfield and that these guys work interdependently of each other. I think Warner only gets 2 sacks on Sunday and an interception plus the pick six if the Lions throw the ball enough. And they might not throw it that much. That's the problem with sacks too. That's somebody asked me over under 9 sacks for Bosa this season. I said under, and I think he's going to have an all-pro year. I think he's going to be, top caliber player. But 2 things. A, I think the 49ers pass rush is going to be so good that there's going to be a hell of a lot of quick passing against the 49ers. And B, teams are going to try to account for Bosa so heavily. I think it's going to open stuff up for an Eric Armstead, right? Maybe even for a Fred Warner when he sneaks in on a blitz. It's going to be tough for Bosa to accumulate way too many sacks because of how much focus he's going to get and how afraid other teams are of the 49ers pass rush. And there's nothing wrong with that unless, you're just counting the sacks and counting the stats. But I think it's hard to find a more impactful player for the benefit of a defense in all of football than Nick Bosa. So I fully believe in Nick Bosa, even though I question how many sacks he'll be able to get this year for reasons that I see on film. I mean, he just gets so much attention because he's so good out there. Do I think that Lenore or Hufanga get any play this week in a DB? I already answered the Lenore question. Hufanga maybe, because you don't know where Jaquaski Tart's going to be conditioning-wise. He did miss a lot of camp. Maybe that's a good opportunity to mix in Talanoa Hufanga. Maybe you use Talanoa as your dime back in this game, but I don't think that there's ever a personnel package that the Chargers will throw out there that requires a dime back. So you might get him his feet wet, but Hufanga is going to be a big special teams contributor for the 49ers. So you're going to see him a lot there. I don't know if the matchup is such that you'll see him a lot on defense. All right, I'm going to go over some of the gambling numbers in a little bit. Oh, cool. Hey, Bernardo, can you send me a link right now of where some of those prop bets are for this game? If you send me a link, I'm going to go through some of them for this one because I know a lot of people are interested in trying to make some money off of this game. So if you could send me right here, I'm going to put this up. Bernardo puts, he said he corrected it to 40, but we'll pretend like it's 400. Put $400 on Brandon Ayuk over 44.5. I'm guessing receiving yards, not yards from scrimmage, right? That's an intriguing bet. I was going to go over the standard ones, but if somebody has a link to some of these props, we're going to go through some of the props here in a second. Do a little bit of a gambling preview. Yeah, I mean Hufanga can blitz. I think Hufanga is a really instinctual player. So, okay, receiving from Bernardo's 44.5 receiving yards for Brandon Ayuk. Hufanga knows where he's at and what he's doing on the football field, which is going to make him a really good special teams player to start. Another guy who knows where he's at and what he's doing on the football field is the actual starter at strong safety, Jaquiski Tart. Let's not forget how good Tart is, how solid of a communicator he is. So the 49ers are certainly happy to have him back and ready to start and ready to, instill some knowledge to a guy like Talanoa Hufanga. I'm going to answer one more question. If one of you has some gambling link for me, put it there, and we're going to go through some of those odds. 49ers can win in multiple ways. Versus Tampa, you simply run the ball down their throats and dominate time of possession. On the defensive side, the 49ers have the pass rush to frustrate Brady. Absolutely. I mean, again, the biggest mistake somebody can make, and last year, there were like professional national writers who were tweeting. I thought it was embarrassing last year when the Bucks and the Bears played. Remember that game? It was the game where Brady forgot what down it was. He ran out of downs, and the Bears played the Bucks. It was a really ugly game, and people were also smug on the internet. They were like, "Oh, these two teams. Imagine one of these two teams trying to play the Seahawks or the who else was throwing the ball a lot early in the year." The one I remember was the Seahawks, because Russell Wilson started off hot last year. Threw for 400 yards, had DK Metcalf, and some people were just so smugly saying, "Oh, the Bucks or the Bears have no chance if they ever play the Seahawks." I mean, the Seahawks are just a class of the league. They're going to run away with everything. Yeah, you saw how that worked out for the Seahawks, right, during the playoffs, and you saw how it worked out for the Bucks as the season went along, right? Ultimately, the teams who can play balanced, complementary football are going to take this the whole way. That's just how it always is. Everybody's going to become enamored with offense in September, offense in October. Then it gets colder. Then teams start to get hurt. Then the balanced teams are the ones that come through on top when all is said and done. Now, what we saw on Thursday night was just an offensive explosion, just a total offensive shit show on Thursday night, right? So you had the Tampa Bay Buccaneers with 50 passes and the Cowboys with 58 passes. No need to establish a run game because nobody could defend the pass. The pass rush for the Cowboys was non-existent. And you had a Tampa Bay win, just barely at the end of the game, but you had the Tampa Bay win, and that was that. You had nothing that would suggest to me that one of those two teams is ready to go all the way and win in January. Now, that they might still show it. They have 16 more games to show it. But you didn't have complimentary football. You had sloppy football with turnovers. And the one thing that I would walk away out of that game, being impressed from Tampa Bay with, is the pass rush. And the Cowboys normally have a good offensive line, but I thought that Tampa Bay pass rush just overwhelmed Dallas. And it was because Dallas couldn't establish a run game. I thought McCarthy coached a terrible game. You pay Ezekiel Elliott all that money. Maybe he's past his prime, whatever, but you got to establish something to mitigate the pass rush. Dallas didn't do that. We know Vita Vea. We know Jason Pierre-Paul. We know that Tampa Bay defensive line, Shaquille Barrett, we know that they can get after, quarterbacks. Tampa still has that. That's why I think it's going to be Tampa and the 49ers in the NFC title game. But until that Tampa offense has to play a defense that's actually existent, unlike that Dallas defense, you can't really read into week one. I saw Jeff Wilson the other day. He's on the field during practice. He's looking like he's making his recovery. He's out there standing behind all the 49ers running backs, not limping around, not on crutches. So I think we'll see him around week 8, week 9. Yeah, QB accuracy is going to be great. These are NFL quarterbacks. If they're not pressured, I was impressed with Dak Prescott because I did think that he was hounded. I thought that Tampa Bay pass rush got after him, especially coming off a broken leg I thought the Dak was good, but I mean, Tom Brady's been in this league for 22 years. He can still throw the ball. If Tom Brady's not pressured, if he's sitting behind a clean pocket all game, he's going to hit every single pass. I mean, but Jimmy Garoppolo is going to hit every single pass. Even Trey Lance at this young stage of his career where he's missing high a lot, if he's not pressured, he's going to hit every single pass. I mean, these are professionals that teams have invested a lot in. The pass rush is the great mitigator. That's why the 49ers have invested so much in it. That's why Dallas is a Big 12 team. They don't have a pass rush. That was the story of that game. Anyway, it's time to move on to some of this gambling stuff because I want to keep this as concise as possible. We're at 50 minutes already. This game right here for the 49ers and the Lions, I have some of the Lions available on my phone. So, okay, let's talk about this. Gambling preview for the 49ers and the Lions. 49ers are 7.5-point favorites. The over-under is 45.5. So let's talk about this. The 49ers, I think you have to use 2019 as a baseline for this 2021 team as far as offensive productivity. The 49ers averaged 30 points per game in 2019. Run first offense, Jimmy Garoppolo at quarterback. They were efficient passing as well, but the 49ers were a 30 points per game team in 2019. They roughed up bad defenses in that season, especially bad running defenses. Based on everything that I've talked about in my 49ers Lions preview content this week, this is still a bad Lions defense. They were the worst in the league, number 32 last year. If you look at the window up on your screen right there, it was the worst pass defense last season. It's still extremely untested. And the Lions are missing loads and loads of defensive ends, and their two starters at defensive end in the 3-4 scheme, Brockers being one of them, are questionable for this game on Sunday. So I'm sorry, but the 49ers, I think, have gotten better offensively. I think Trey Lance expands their arsenal as far as the run goes. I think that if you're a betting person, the 49ers are going to score over 30 points in this game. The Lions last season gave up 32 points per game. Even if they're marginally better defensively, even if they are only giving up 26 a game this year, which would be a big improvement, the 49ers, I think, are going to be a 30 points per game offense this year. And if you put those two things together, this is going to be at least a 30-point output for the 49ers against the Lions. Now, you look at the other side of the ball. How many will Detroit score? Well, with Matt Stafford last year, they scored 23.5 points per game. That was an average offense. Do you really think they're going to get better with Jared Goff? Do you really think that they're going to be able to fend off the 49ers pass rush, missing Taylor Decker, their starting left tackle? Do you really think they're going to be more explosive without Kenny Golladay or Marvin Jones, two of their top receivers? Leading returning receiver is TJ Hawkinson, who's a tight end. I don't think that this Lions team sniffs 20 points in this game against this 49ers defense. I just don't see it. I mean, maybe 2 touchdowns. I think it's 2 scores, though. I think it's a touchdown and a field goal for the Lions. So my predicted score is 49ers 34, Lions 10. I think this is all the makings of a blowout if you're a betting man. And that obviously covers a 7.5-point spread. So I would pound the 49ers on the cover in this game. I would not bet the over-under. If it's 44.5, like I said, 44.5, well, 34-10 is 44. That'd be under. I wouldn't bet it. The 49ers can blow up offensively in this game. They can get a defensive touchdown against Jared Goff, as we all know, as Fred Warner knows, and that could blow past 44. And so I wouldn't be too big on the over-unders. If you guys have prop questions, Trey Lance over under 10 plays. I would say under, just because I think the 49ers will ease him in for 2 reasons. Not as much the injury reason, but I think they want to spoon feed him his NFL action. But because Trey Lance is going to contribute this year, and the 49ers have some big-time opponents coming up later this season. I don't think the Lions are one of those big-time opponents, so I think that you might want to keep Trey. It's going to be under 10 design plays while Garoppolo is in. Now, if this turns into a blowout, 49ers will happily give Trey Lance some pocket passing time it'll be over 10 plays. But as far as design plays as part of a package, I think it'll be 7 for Trey Lance. Now I want to go to Bernardo's initial one. Now, Bernardo sent me a link, so that's good. So we'll take a look at that. He said the line changed. Brandon Ayuk, over under 49.5 receiving yards. It was over 44.5 yesterday, and I guess people just hammered the over for Brandon Ayuk. I would go under because, receiving yards are tough. The thing is, they're going to count those little forward pitches as receiving yards. So maybe that causes you to go over. I would actually stay away from this bet just because there are so many little variables like that are tough to get. But I think the 49ers have their way. They're going to run the hell out of this football in this game. They may not pass for too many yards. Just my thoughts. So hopefully I could copy and paste this link. Oh, it's not going to let me, is it? It's not going to let me copy and paste it. That is so unfortunate. But that is where all the props are for the 49ers. Maybe I could go to bet365.com really quick and open up sports betting's going to be legal in Washington. There you go. You're going to have some fun with this one. Yep, this is a late night show. Hi, Josh. How are you? I'm going to go open up that Bet365 website. Maybe I could get you guys a couple more pieces of advice before we sign off on this one. Too bad they don't let you click on those links, huh? Oh, hope you guys enjoyed the night show. It's a first. I know that much. And here we are. 49ers at Lions. Oh, this is perfect. Although I don't see any prop bets here. So I'm going to have to find them for the next time that we do. Oh, no, yeah, main props. Here we go. Still looking. I want player props. Nice. All right. We're going to go through this right now. Let me share the screen. Take out one of these. And now we're going to share this. Okay. Player passing yards. Jared Goff. Over 223 yards passing. Over under 223.5. Under. I think they're going to snuff him out. He doesn't have enough receivers to. I mean, when Amon-Ra St. Brown is and Terrell Williams are, under 223.5. Passing touchdowns for Jared Goff. Over or under 1.5. Under. I only think the Lions score once total in this game. There it is. Player receiving yards. Brandon Ayuk. I stay away from it. Stay away from it. Stay away from Kittle. If there is one to do over, it might be TJ Hawkinson, just because I think he might be the over 45.5 right there for the Lions. He might be the one target that Detroit really trusts. Rush yards will be interesting. Here we go. Oh, yeah. Raheem Mostert over 65. He's healthy. He's starting the season. He might get that in one run. That's my bet of the game. My player prop bet of the game, Raheem Mostert over 65.5 rushing yards. I'm going to go and write down what I advise in a spreadsheet, and we'll keep track of how good I am. So far, you've got 49ers to cover for sure. Stay away from the over-under, and Raheem Mostert over 65.5 rushing yards. Those are the 3 bets that I would really recommend. If you want to have some fun, Jared Goff under 223.5 passing yards could be a good bet too. I'm a little bit more lukewarm on that though. Too much garbage time crap can happen with something like that. So stay away from that Jared Goff bet. I'm not officially endorsing it. Score props. First score. This is getting too Super Bowl-y for me. I'm not going to do that. Staying away from that. Oh, team points. Perfect. Look at this. 49ers over 27.5. Over. I'm all into that one. 49ers over 27.5 points. I think they're going to score at least 30 in this game. Lions over under 17.5. I think it's under. I think this 49ers defense is ready to play. Niners defense, by the way, in 2019 gave up somewhere between 17 and 19 points per game. if you really think this Lions offense is above average, then you think they're going to score at least that much. But I don't think it's going to happen. It's going to be fewer points for the Lions. So I would go under 17.5 for the Lions, over 27.5 for the 49ers. Yeah, some really interesting lines here. It's week 1, but you could treat this game like the Super Bowl if you really want to. Yeah, but I don't want to treat it like the Super Bowl. Some of these get a little bit too crazy. You got first half props and everything. So yeah, spread is -7.5. Total went up to 46. That's too high. I thought it was 44.5 or whatever. I think it's going to be 34-10 49ers. Anyway, hope you enjoyed the little bit of a gambling preview. If people like that, maybe we could make it a little bit more official each week. But I thought that'd be a cool part of all this. What's up with Javon Kinlaw? The problem with Javon Kinlaw is that he's got some kind of knee tendonitis that just won't go away. Doubtful for the game. So we'll see. I've gone an hour. So I think we've covered this game inside and out. Hopefully you enjoyed it. We'll do this every week. And I don't know if it's going to be an hour, but I enjoy talking to you guys. So make sure to subscribe to YouTube. Make sure to follow me everywhere on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Lombardi himself. But most of all, let's get this YouTube channel big so we can have some fun with it. All right, everybody. Thank you so much. 49ers and Lions on Sunday. Everybody enjoy the game. Have a great Friday night.